Ce podcast métal est une présentation de la cordonnerie chez Jerry, le fabricant Melody Musicraft, la boutique Brouhaha, la chaîne YouTube Horreur FM et la brasserie artisanale à la dérive. Bon podcast! Hey everyone, welcome to the Metal Minded Live podcast. I just like doing my radio voice when we do an English one.
Exactly, you could do it in English now.
Yeah, because in English I think it sounds better, you know. Because in French you need to sound like Radio Canada there. It's not fun. You see, like in English I could do like, you know. Anyways, so just fuck up my own intro. That's fine. I don't care. We're live. It's fun. Yeah, tonight. Okay, just a disclaimer. Usually I write my own intros, but first off, I'm on vacation and I'm lazy. And second off, their Bandcamp's bio of the band we're doing tonight was just perfect. I did a little mashup with another kind of intro and review, whatever that I saw on the web there. So here it is. Anyways, so here we go. Since 2014, they have been sharpening their steel, and their presence on the Trap Under Ice compilation refined that edge into a lethal blade. It's amazing. I like it. Their latest album, Sealed in Starlight, is a mountain of raw iron, memorable riffing, and skull-crushing vocals. And to finish, because it made me laugh so fucking much, because it kind of made sense, but kind of not made sense at all at the same time. You guys can tell me what you think. The website V13 says, when speaking about their album, the perfect background tunes for equal amounts of fighting and fucking.
Wow, that's a hell of a compliment. That's one hell of a compliment in my book.
Like I'm not sure where they were going with this, but it sure made me laugh as hell.
I like it.
Okay.
Now I feel like trying that.
Yeah.
Works with me.
They should have said and or maybe. It would have sounded less.
And or.
Maybe.
Sex, like even the Exploited talked about sex and violence, right? It's like oh, sorry about that. It's a good it's a good match of the two, sex, violence. You know, it's a hand and a 1-2 combination. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with us tonight, you know, so if people will be listening in audio, you just heard Damien Ritual, the singer of the band Starlight Ritual. So first off, welcome. It's nice having you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So to start off, usually what we do, I go to Yola, and what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I wanted to start off not too strong because I've had a big weekend, went camping, just got back. Hey, and 15 minutes away from home, we had our camper tire blow up on the highway.
Lovely.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was just amazing. 15 minutes from home, right? It was like super close. So I'm gonna start off with Job de Bras. Blonde ale, light beer, 4%. It's gonna start off the evening pretty well. And what are you drinking, Damien?
Oh, I got a little rum and coke here. You know, it's a good standby. I'm not a big. I enjoy beer, but I'm more of a liquor drink kind of guy. So a little bit of spiced rum and some coke there. You know,
Cuba Libre, they call it in Cuba.
Perfect stuff.
There you go.
What are you drinking, Smo?
I'm starting pretty low key as well. Just with a little Bitburger.
Oh yeah,
Classic.
Yeah,
classic light beer.
Classic European gas station beer. You know.
Here you go. And I got the matching glass. So. So at least I tried a little.
Tastes better that way.
Yeah, I got a nice one for the second one.
So next segment is always what we've been listening to lately. Either it be movies, music, or just reading. So what have we been consuming? And Simon, start us off.
Okay, so I did listen to a lot of music, but the two I wanted to talk about is the latest Dark Throne, Eternal Hails, which is amazing if you like the early Dark Throne stuff. You know, it was Nick Richet. I forgot to write it down, but Nick Richet on Facebook said it's a mix. It's a mix between the two first albums of Dark Throne, which I forget the names.
Soulside Journey and A Blaze in the Northern Sky.
Here you go. And
when
it-
they
and-
were a bit more death metal instead of black metal.
but it's
Yeah.
a mix between these two. Exactly. So if you like these two albums, you'll most likely like that new album. And it kind of sounds like that era as well. They did like a very like lo-fi recording, which is not for everyone, but you know. And the new Pestilence as well. That's pretty good. And both bands are like bands that had millions of albums,
Yeah.
you know, between them. So,
Yeah.
and I found out while going through all of their albums that I didn't listen to a lot of those of their albums. So I'm actually starting today and go on for the week. I'll probably go through all their discography of both of them, both bands, just go through, because I just figured out it's two bands that I know like one or two albums of them, and I never like went further, you know.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
that's basically what I did this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands like that.
Yeah.
You'd be
Yeah, it
amazed.
happens.
Many bands have 10, 12 albums. Like, wow, I only know 3 of them. How about that? You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
So we'll go on to you, Damien. What have you been listening to, watching, reading?
Watching, reading, listening to. You know, I find as time goes on, the older I get, the more back I start looking in catalogs of bands and styles. You know, and I try to keep current with some new stuff, but I just find myself listening to stuff from the late 60s, early 70s. You know, and I find music back then was like really raw and really free, and the genres were not so defined yet, if defined at all. So a lot of stuff like Argent and some Jethro Tull and 10 Years After, like a lot of like super raw, just like acid rock. Some people could call it proto metal, I guess, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So listening to a lot of that kind of stuff, even a couple early Ted Nugent albums, because that guitar playing is just so good, you know. And that, and a lot of live albums too, you know. I find the live album in general, the concept is kind of underappreciated, you know, especially with a lot of these 70s rock bands, you know, like Thin Lizzy and Deep Purple, Scorpions and stuff like that. They have such phenomenal live albums where the playing and the songs are, in my opinion, even sometimes better than on the album, you know. Plus they have like that free reign to do whatever they want for however long they want, you know.
Yeah, add on a little riff here, add on a little
Yeah.
guitar solo there.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets a little too extravagant, but when they keep it in good taste and don't let it trail off for 10, 15 minutes there, it's pretty good.
Yep.
Aside from that, reading, I don't know. I like old books, man. I read a lot. I like stuff like old philosophy books and stuff, books that were written by men that were way better than I will ever be. You know, that's like a nice template for how to like you know, live your life and how to make sense of things. You know, so you know, I like you know, I was reading these book of quotes by Marcus Aurelius, and I was like, every day I feel like I want to like conquer the world for the glory of Rome. You know, so it's very nice, very inspiring. You know. And
Nice.
yeah, it's super epic, you know. It makes for a great lyrical subject too. And other than that, movies, I don't really watch a lot of TV, man, you know. So I don't really. It's really just when I'm driving, I put on the classics, you know, and when I'm home, I like to read my quotes from guys that have been dead for like hundreds to thousands of years. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm just weird like that, I guess.
All
And
right.
yourself, my good man.
Well, first I'm gonna go on live chat. Phil Extreme says he likes to have live albums because to him also, when he only has one album of a band, he'll like to have that live album because at the same time it's like a best
Absolutely.
of, and
Absolutely.
you get the best of the band. So that's
Yep.
a really good thing.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point that he made. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
So for me lately, well, obviously I just went camping for the past 4 days, so it was like just classic rock playlist that I always put when I go camping.
Yeah.
So I go into my CCR and like
Oh,
all of that's my camping vibe. I have to stay in that. And it's been mostly that. When I came back home, I listened to I saw on the Metal Minded group someone had posted a band called Video Nasty, and they do like thrash, really nasty thrash. Like his voice is super raw, and all of the songs are based on horror movies. So
that's actually interesting because the Video Nasties, that's actually a famous saying.
Exactly.
In the 80s, the Video Nasties were a set of, I think it was 20 movies that were banned in like most major countries in the world for being too violent, too extreme. like
Exactly.
faces of death, cannibal holocaust, stuff like that, So
So the
it's cool.
band like took their name and they flipped it around
Yeah,
with their
yeah,
style and
yeah,
what they wanted to do. So it was
I like
pretty
that.
cool.
Yeah. Took the ball and ran with it, It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today, like when we got back from camping, me and the kids, we just sat on the couch and we watched the latest cartoon that just came out on Disney Plus, and
Oh, wow.
it's called Luca,
Okay.
and it's about this. It's based in like old Sicily, and it's about a kid, but it's not really a kid because he's like a sea monster, like a mermaid type
All right.
creature. And when he goes out of the water, he actually becomes human every time he comes out of the water. So he can fake being a human, but he's not allowed to do that. And it's the story about him wanting to become educated and wanting to be part of life, finding a friend, all that stuff. While it was actually a pretty good concept. There's just one
Yeah.
character in the movie that I really did not like, and he annoyed the hell out of me the entire movie.
Did it look
But
like me?
kind of, no. No, he was just like this kid know-it-all character that I really didn't like. Turns out in the end he's a good character, but I mean, throughout the movie is pretty hard. It was a pretty hard watch because of him, but the rest, the concept and the entire storyline was really good. And
Cool.
it's fun to have something that was based in like Italy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they have all of those expressions and all of the mannerisms we don't have over here. And so I liked it for that.
A lot of hand gestures too,
Oh yes, a lot of hand gestures in the movie.
That's very good.
And just before I went camping, I watched the movie The Visitor. That was fucked up. It's a movie at the it was at the end of the 70's.
Oh, okay.
It was 79. And this director, this movie is in a lot of the major what the fuck movie lists.
Oh, okay, like a David Cronenberg video, kind of like
yeah, kind of like that. And it's very Omen-esque. Like there's a fucked up kid in the movie, and there's like a family bloodline based from Satan, and there's also like alien invaders wanting to stop the Satan bloodline.
Wow.
So yeah,
it was. Not only do you have the Satan, you got aliens too. It's like a 1-2. Like, forget about it, man. Like, it was no matter how you look at it.
It was super weird to watch, yet super intriguing. So it was a good watch, but it was a really hard watch, and it's probably something that I'd have to see many times to get to analyze it properly. So no, it was fun. I'm glad I watched it, but I mean, you have to be in the right mindset.
Gotta be in the mood. Gotta be in the zone for that one.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's pretty much it for me. Oh, and I've still been reading Crypt of Dr. Gore fanzine. I've been reading up on everything he sent me from France. So shout out to him once again for everything that he sent to me.
Hey, by the way, there's Horror FM, one of our sponsors, that says there's a movie about the video 60's that came out not long ago called Censor. It looks really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you told me about it not long ago, and it's in my I need to watch really soon list, but I need to find some time list.
Oh yeah, that list is really long. I can imagine how long that list is. Yeah,
it's pretty fucking hardcore.
Yeah.
Anyways, so first things first, let's start off this interview with Damien. So, Starlight Ritual.
Yes, sir.
Who are you? What are you? Talk about the band, how it formed, what's going on there.
All right, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, I guess it all started with our guitar player JF Bertrand from he's also the singer of Partenaires, a Quebec black metal band, and he's always been a fan of classic heavy metal, hard rock music. You look at his album collection, and you're seeing like your typical black metal and what you'd expect, and it's like Thin Lizzy and Nazareth and stuff like that, and Rainbow. So it's always had a big like soft spot for that kind of stuff. But he's a big fan of kind of progressive stuff as well. So originally he had this idea to create this band that was like kind of doom metal, progressive, trippy, kind of long songs, lots of effects, lots of cool guitar pedals and stuff, and So they had written a bunch of songs. They had about 8 songs that they did. This is around 2014.
Yep.
And they didn't have a singer. They're like, who the hell are we going to find to sing this kind of stuff? You know, they wanted a really dynamic singer with a big range, and you know, so they tried out a couple people, and you know, nobody really fit the bill. And I was like not in the music scene at all. I was just a guy going to concerts and just doing my thing, you know. And I was friends with Nick, the owner, co-owner of Temple of Mystery Records, and we were at some show. I think it was actually Thor. You know, remember that guy Thor, that bodybuilder guy there? That
Yep.
He played a show, I think, at the Catacombs here in Montreal. And you know, in between the songs, in between the sets of the bands, they put music over the intercom, and I think something like "Screaming for Vengeance" from Judas Priest came on. I was just singing along to it, you know, all in my drunken glory, and she's like, "Hey, you got a pretty cool voice. You should go try out for you know, this band here, one of my friends' bands." And I was like, "I'm not a singer. Like, I don't know anything about singing. I just sing in the shower and when I have a few drinks to not be shy in front of people, you know." So like, well, you know, you sound pretty good. Go check it out. So I went to go check it out, and I called JF. I got his number, and he goes, "Well, we need some samples of your voice." You're like, what can you do?" So I was like, "Well, I don't have any samples. I don't even own a microphone. I'm like nobody, you know." So so he's like, "Well, you got to have something." But I was kind of practicing singing because I thought I was all right at it. So I would drive around. Back then, I had this big Jeep, like this big old school Jeep, and it was super loud and super bumpy. So I would sing songs like Manowar songs and Rainbow and Judas Priest, and kind of just like hold my cell phone up while I drive and kind of sing into it, you know. So I'm like, well, I have these like audio note recordings that I can kind of send you, and it's like me singing like, you know, Hell Bent for Leather with like the big sound of the engine in the background, you know. So he's like, I'm like, to me, I was almost embarrassed to send him, but I was like, it's all I got, man. Take it or leave it, you know.
Well,
He's like,
technically, it fits perfectly with that song.
yeah, that's it. He's like, man, honestly, because I was expecting to get some, you know, MP3 of like some studio project where your voice is layered like 100 times with tons of effects, and like we have no idea what you really sound like. And you literally sent us like the most real thing, you know, that we could possibly hear, you know, like
Yep.
with the sound of the engine and all in the background. So I was like, oh yeah, that's all I got. So I didn't know these guys before, so I met up with them and they showed me some songs there, and I thought it was really the music was really good. You know, they're like, all right, well, write lyrics and sing. And I was like, all right, so how do you do that? I had no idea, you know. So
Yep.
I just kind of winged it, you know, and I really like that stuff. And you know, that's one of the album you see here on the
Yeah.
on my left here. That was the first album, the EP, and I love those songs. And it was kind of like my first foray into songwriting and lyric writing and coming up with vocal melodies and stuff. And so I'm proud of it. You know, it was fun. It wasn't really exactly what I wanted to do, but like I said, those songs have already been done and they were finished. So it's like, all right, we'll work with this. But now I'm in the band. I want to kind of try to pull it to more stuff that I'm into. You know, like old school stuff and 70s stuff, 80s stuff. You know, and so they're like, yeah, no problem. So then JF, he wrote "One for the Road." That was like our first song that we kind of wrote all together, of myself and the other 2 guys. And I was like, yep, that's the style I want to go in. You know, like Deep Purple, Rainbow, rockin', you know,
Yep.
but heavy, you know. And we didn't want to sound like we're from the 80s, but we didn't want to have that kind of like super overproduced sound of modern metal bands either. We wanted to try to find something in the middle. So we did One for the Road, then we wrote Lunar Rotation. And like I was just telling you guys before we started, a lot of these songs, most of the songs you hear on Seal and Starlight were written 4 to 5 years ago, and we've just been
Mhm.
working on them and polishing them up. And you know, so we tried to get them as good as we could possibly do it, you know. So as far as the band history, that's about it. You know, they had a couple songs in 2014. I joined them at the end of 2014. We put out that EP and a year later, and we just been writing songs and playing shows, and you know, we do what we want to do. We play what sounds good to us, as long as it's got that soul and that feeling to it. It's like, yeah, we like it. Let's use it. Let's do that. You know. So,
Perfect.
Cool.
but yeah.
So, so what I read is that, well, you said it as well, is that you never sang in a band before, right?
Yeah.
So that means you never recorded as well, right?
No.
So I was just wondering, what went through your mind like first time you entered a vocal booth, like, you know, and
It was something else, man. It was not only was it a vocal booth, we were first recorded the first thing we did, the EP we did at Dream Builder Studios in Cornwall, Ontario, under the expertise of Roy Nickel. Now, Roy Nickel, most people probably don't know who that is, but he's the drummer of April Wine. So
Nice.
yeah, so we recorded in the April Wine drummer studio. Somehow JF, our guitar player, knows the guy and is friends with him. I don't even know how, but he's buddies with him, and he gave us a pretty good deal. So he's asking me like, so like we're talking about vocals. He's like, are you like a tenor or what? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like at the time, I had no idea what any of singing terms meant, you know. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I've been singing for like 6 months, so so the guy's like, all right, this guy's gonna suck, you know. And turned out it was okay. So he sets me up in the ISO booth, you know, and he gives me this microphone, this like condenser mic that's super nice looking, and it looked like old school, you know. And I was like, hey, this is a really cool mic. He's like, yeah, it was the same one that you know, Miles Goodwin, April Wine singer, used to record like Nature of the Beast and Harder Faster, you know, like their two biggest selling classic albums. I'm like,
You've got to be kidding, right?
you got to be kidding me, right? He goes, oh yeah, it's like a classic, man. It's like worth like $5,000-6,000 this mic. I was like, shit. Like now I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I'm just winging it, you know. And when I'm using the soup, I didn't want to look at it, you know. It's like, don't even look at it, you know. And Roy was a super cool guy. He gave me some tips, you know, like help my breathing and how to control myself. And he was always like, stop singing so goddamn loud, like tone it down a bit, stop yelling so much, you know. And so I tried to kind of like on the spot, you know, take his advice. And you know, back then, especially when we were recording, you know, especially like it's the same thing in any aspect of life. When you're young and you're hungry and like you're proud of what you do, you try to do everything. Like we tried to do everything one take, you know. So that first EP, the entire album was recorded live. So from front to back, it's all the music in one shot, you know, all the rhythms, right? So you had the drums, bass, and the two guitar players playing all the rhythm parts from front to back. And if somebody fucked up, start again from the beginning, and everything is recorded at the same time. And you can hear like all the mics bleeding into each other too, you know? So we tried to be really authentic in that sense. And it turned out pretty good because we were practicing a lot. So our stuff we were pretty tight at it.
And it makes such a great sound. It makes it so full of life.
Yeah, that's what we thought too, you know. And again, like I mentioned, those live albums, you know, we're thinking like these guys could do it. Why can't we do it, you know? And so you know, they did that, and then obviously the solos are recorded after. And then when it came to the time to the vocals, I was like, nope, I don't want to use punch-ins. I want to do it all A to Z. And he's like, okay, come on, buddy. Like, so you know, he's like, you could do that, but how about you just do like a full verse and then a full chorus and a full verse? And I was like, okay, we'll try that, you know, because it's like, it's so impossible to do a song from A to Z, like, you know, perfect, you know. And especially on an album, you know, you want it to be the best you can be, but you don't want to oversell yourself either. And be like anything you hear on a Starlight Ritual album, we can do live and it'll sound exactly like the album, you know. Like that's kind of something we pride ourselves on, you know. So so I kind of did all that stuff. I still like, okay, let's do all the verse, you know. And that led into doing like a double verse on one track, you know, and then the chorus all in one track, and then just background backing vocals and stuff after. So I was very hard-headed back then, in trying to prove like what I can do, even though I had no idea what I was doing, you know.
Yep.
So but it was a fun experience, you know. And as time went on, you know, I started realizing like, you know, maybe there's something to this studio magic here, you know, that you know. So then we started using auto tune, you know, and obviously not.
Oh fuck! You caught me off guard. And I'm like,
yeah. So then we
Yes.
started using auto tune, you know. And
I was like,
multi-tracking
there's
and-
auto tune on the new album.
no. That's what's cool is that album too is actually sung pretty straight to, and everything is recorded with one track too. There's no doubling. There's no like multiple, unless there's like a scream in the background or something. All the verses, all the choruses, it's all just one line from like the beginning of the chorus, beginning of verse to the end of the verse, unless a scream overlaps into a word of like the first word of the next part or whatever, then it will, you know, kind of double track. But we just tried to do it as live as possible, you know, vocally at least, because we started kind of doing this recording in the beginning of the pandemic. So a lot of it was kind of isolated stuff. You know, we had the drums, we had the drummer do the whole album with just a ghost track on the guitar, and then we did the guitar separately, bass separately, and the vocals at the end. So it took a little while to make the album, but at the end of the day, it sounds exactly like how we wanted it to sound. So you know,
Yeah,
happy about that.
yeah, it's always harder in the pandemic. We with my
Yeah.
band, same thing. We're doing the same thing, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I want to while doing a few research, I've noticed that all the reviews I've seen, most of them would reference different bands as influences.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, so one said I just picked like two of the not the
Sure.
best ones, but I just picked two
Sure.
because I didn't want to fucking tell like fucking 25 bands just for the fuck of it. So yeah, one guy said sounds similar to Saxon and Diano era Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one I should have written the websites and their names and stuff. That would have been nice of me.
That would have been very nice of you.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, vacation, lazy, like
all right.
And the other one said the grit of Motorhead, the attack of Accept, the musician. So goddamn, that's hard to say in English with a beer in d'alcool. The musicianship of Rainbow, and the overall artistry of Judas Priest.
Oh wow, that's a hell of a compliment there.
Yeah, were these? Do you think they were spot on in their description, or is there anything you want to add to that?
There's really not much I can add to that. There's definitely a big British influence to our sound from, that biker edge of Saxon and that rough Motorhead, and then Accept is German, but definitely kind of have that snarly vocal sound, And I'm a huge Ronnie James Dio fan, so anything that Dio has ever touched is like gospel to me, from the Elf albums to all the Rainbow stuff, and even when he did Master of the Moon, I think in 2010, I was like, yep, that's great, So I guess you could say I'm like a bit of a Dio fanboy, so he's always been a pretty big influence for me. So I always liked his approach, his melodic approach to having the guitars doing some simple riffs and he takes care of the melody, and I've always we kind of did that with Starlight Rituals. I let the guitar guys shine. Well, I shouldn't say I let them, they shine on their own, obviously, but they know when it's time for the singing, like they could just kind of like hold back a bit, and then so I can do the melody. And I've always kind of had this love relationship with the contrasting melodies. Like if the guitars they go down on the notes, I go up with my voice, or vice versa, and it makes like a pretty wide spectrum of melodies and emotions. So
I had actually mentioned that in my review 2 weeks ago, how your voice and the guitar solos were just like so well blended. Like you would do your vocal parts and the guitar solo would just continue on that same part, and it was magical. It was like the guitar was singing right after what you were doing.
Yeah, and it's cool. I appreciate you saying that, and it's cool because all of that stuff was kind of unintentional. Like a lot of the solos on the album. I shouldn't say a lot of the solos, but a lot of the solos near the end of a lot of songs were kind of improv on the spot. So some of my vocal melodies, I guess, were the influence for some of those shorter little guitar solos. So anytime you usually hear on the album where I'm singing and there's a guitar part, that was kind of just done almost on the spot, like a last minute call. And I was like, yep, that works. Let's keep it,
That's perfect. Because to me, that was one of the standout things in the album entirely. Like it was hands down one of the things that would make me feel all the emotion all throughout the song.
Studio magic, they call it.
Studio magic.
By the way, I guess.
By the way, really cool. A bunch of people online have just been saying how your vocals are fucking killer. Derek Kills, Melissa Labonte, even Phil Extreme. Everyone's just saying that you have massive vocals, pure feeling of true heavy metal.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. I thank you to everybody for saying that. I sing. The way I sing is what I would like to hear in a band, I guess, So, a lot of heavy metal, a lot of heavy metal bands, they just want to find a guy that can hit high notes, and oh, that's cool, but I mean, it's like you're a one-trick pony. You know, I want to feel what the guy is doing. I want to feel like when he's mad, I want to be mad too. When he's happy or he's proud, I want to be mad or proud or happy or whatever feeling that song is trying to convey. I want to feel it as well, you know?
Yep.
And a lot of that will come through in the roughness of your voice or the softness of your voice, you know, and the pronunciation of your words and how you choose. You know, when I write my lyrics, I'll come up with a melody first. You know, I'll have the song, the music done, and then I'll listen to it and I'll come up with a melody in my head, and then I'll find a theme, and then I'll attach words to that melody, and I'll even go as far as like picking certain points in time, like 3-syllable words, so I can accentuate that word with 3 different notes. You know,
Okay.
and so I try to, and I'll, you know, I'm like a mad scientist when I write lyrics. Like I have like an old school like book of synonyms and thesaurus and all this crazy stuff, because I never want to repeat the same word twice, and I want to try to like, you know, like instead of saying steel, let me find something that will, you know, that will replace that, that's more unique, you know.
Yep.
So I try to avoid. I mean, obviously, for some anthemic songs, you want to have like sing along choruses and simple stuff. But usually, when I try to write lyrics, I try to use a high vocabulary and kind of show that we're not like metal guys are not dummies. You know,
Yep.
we know
Well,
how to read and write. You know, and
you're
yeah.
bringing me to the question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
So, how do you go through the writing process? Like, who does what
Mm.
in the band, and
Yep.
how are your songs built in
Mm.
general?
Well, first and foremost, I gotta say, I gotta give the biggest credit to Dan Toupin. He's the second guitarist. Well, I should say second. I say the other guitarist.
The other
He
guitars.
yeah, I shouldn't say second because they're both like on the same level. They're both rhythm and lead players, so they both, you know, play off each other.
Yep.
But Dan Toupin, Dan the Man as we call him, he writes 90% of all the music you hear comes from one guy. It just comes from Dan, and all those riffs you hear, like on Sealed and Starlight, uh, the only songs that Dan didn't write, basically A to Z, were One for the Road and Righteous Ones.
Okay.
Everything else is just from Dan's mind and his hands and his playing, you know. So when I met this guy and I saw the riffs he was coming up with and the way he would, you know, just jump from one riff to the other and how he would structure his songs, I was like, I want to stick with this guy forever because I just love his playing and I love the way he writes songs. So how it usually works is Dan will record at home because he's a like multi-instrument. He can play drums, bass, guitar, a bit of keyboard and stuff. So he'll record like a demo version of the song at home by himself, and then he sends it to us, and we all listen to it. Uh, Dan, he's a guitar player first and foremost, so he has that same habit that all guitar players have, in that they never want to go back to a part they've done before. They just keep writing riff after riff after riff after riff, and I'm like, well, I like that, you know, but it's hard to have 12 different riffs in a song when people want, because you know, as much as people hate to admit it, they want familiarity in the sense of like verse, chorus. Like people like structure in music, you know. If it's too chaotic, then you're kind of only appealing to musicians, you know, so you're alienating a lot of a fan base. So we try to keep it like pretty tried and true in the songwriting format, you know, verse, chorus, bridge, you know. Sometimes we mix it up. We like to keep it pretty straightforward. And that's where kind of I come in, and I'll take his 12 parts and pick like the 5 or 6 best parts, and we'll make verses and choruses with that, you know.
Yep.
And we patch that all together. And when that's done, I just kind of keep listening to it, and I'll come up with a melody. And then, like I was saying, I just will, you know, I'll listen to the notes he's playing and the feel of the song, and like, what does it make me feel? What does it make me think about? You know, does it remind me of, you know, like something epic, or is it something sad, or is it something aggressive? You know, and then I'll kind of just find a theme and write about that. And the lyrics are the last thing that always happens in the song. You know.
Yep.
So that's it. You know, we just kind of, Dan writes the music, and then Dan and I and JF kind of arrange it, and then I'll do the melodies, and then I'll find some lyrics, and we just do it. You know.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I also wanted to hit on something that you guys had said on your Facebook page,
Yeah.
when it was said that this is the first true full-length album for Starlight Ritual.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other two were EPs, but even the
Right.
first one was not.
Love.
It was a long EP.
Yeah.
You could have called it an album, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why say the first full true?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, because to us, we always, even when we talk about them, with the Age of the Universe EP, it's actually in the title, EP, Age of the Universe, and it was only 2 songs plus a cover. So that was a legitimate EP. But when we talk about Starlight Ritual, 2014 Starlight Ritual, we always refer to that as the demo, because for us, that was our demo, Like it was because it's only 4 songs, right?
Yep.
The first one just happens to be 10 minutes long, and I think the entirety of the album is like almost 40 minutes. It's like 39 something,
Yeah, it's 39 minutes and a half.
Yeah, that's it. So it definitely has the volume of or the length, I should say, of a full length album. But I guess to us it was just a demo because it was just 4 songs, and no album just has 4 songs on it, right? Like to us, it's like an album has like 8 songs minimum, like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, So we always refer to the first one as the demo, and then Age of the Universe as the EP. And so this was what we would consider our first full length album, in the sense that it's long, it's full length, and it has 8 songs. So like if it was on an 8-track or a cassette, it would be like 4 on one side, 4 on the other side.
So it was your first true iteration of what
Yeah.
Starlight Ritual wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I find that we have some other songs, but we chose the songs that we think represent the band the best. Okay. So that people kind of get a full idea of what we do, from like One for the Road, like that, like kind of like barroom fight rock and roll, to like Riddle of Steel, where it's more like epic heavy metal, to like softer epic stuff like the verses in Sealed and Starlight. And like this kind of represents what we listen to and what we like to do in like a full spectrum, whereas the demo and the EP, well, the EP was kind of going more towards the hard rock and sound, but the first demo, that's like very kind of out there, long songs,
it was very different from what you're doing
very
now.
Different. Yeah,
very different.
Yeah. However, I mean, Civilization Lost was on that first one, and that's actually kind of funny, because every time we would play, like we play the Triangle, and we've never played the Triangle live because it's really long. But if we ever play a big festival or something, we're gonna play it just to be like, what, why not? But like when we would play those songs, Astral Flames and the Triangle and I Seal the Light, that stuff, it was fun. But every time we played Civ Lost, it was like we always said to ourselves, why don't we write more songs like this? Like they're shorter, punchier, they're like more energetic, and that was a bit of the catalyst too, from jumping from the 2 sounds that you hear from the Starlight Ritual demo to Age of the Universe. It was really from Civilization Lost. Like we just loved playing that, like a little faster, upbeat, high energy stuff, And I was like, why don't we just write more songs like this? And it all kind of came from there,
Perfect. So before Simon's next question, I'm going to open my second beer, because that first beer just went down super fast.
Yeah,
it was
too, actually.
It was just perfect. So I'm going to go with L'Ironie du 13. This beer is called Du Jus Paul.
Du Jus Paul.
I love the name. So it's New England Pale Ale. And I like the beers these guys are coming up with, L'Ironie du 13. They don't have their own brewery yet, so they can them and brew them at Ralbox Brewery. So pretty cool. Hope they have their own place soon, because their products are really good.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Damon, you were.
It is Du Jus Paul.
Oh, ben oui. Yes, it is.
Paul.
Ben Paul. Like my beden. It didn't see the sun for about probably 15 years. Anyways.
Gotta get it out, man. Just whip it out, man. Get some sun on that,
That's for another podcast. But
that's for your OnlyFans account.
Yeah, it's OnlyFans. That's right.
Coming soon, folks. Coming soon.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned at the beginning, which we would get along great. You're a huge fan of like 60's and 70's era. I am too. But I was just wondering what got you started in that era, because obviously you weren't born in 45 there.
Of course. Yeah, very good question. That I have to thank my parents for that. When I was a little kid, my dad was like he always makes this joke that I was conceived in the back seat of a Black Sabbath, like in the parking lot of a Black Sabbath concert, you know. So
Nice.
he kind of always says, "You're like, yeah, that's when I knocked up your mom," you know. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Dad. It's cool," you know. It's like
I love
probably
that.
like a Glenn Hughes era Black Sabbath tour, you know. So that's it. So when I was a kid, you know, my dad and my mom too, they loved a lot of like you know, hard rock and 80's heavy metal and stuff. So when I was a kid, my dad was always just playing like, you know, Accept, Balls to the Wall and Power Slave and Long Live Rock and Roll from Rainbow, or you know, Thin Lizzy, that kind of stuff, and as well stuff like Alice Cooper and uh, Supertramp, and you know, just like a good variation, Alan Parsons Project, and all these bands that I would just be a little kid, and I guess, you know, especially when you're a little kid, those albums seem like they're like huge, right? So you're just kind of
Yep.
holding it. And I was looking at the covers, and even just like the cover of like you know, like some Gentle Giant albums and some Genesis albums, and they're just so cool to look at. And I was enamored with everything that had to do with this era in general, you know. And you know, eventually, I they they tried to show me how to use the turntable, but after like wrecking a few records, like, okay, if you want to change a record, just ask us and we'll do it for you, you know. So
Yeah.
so that's it. So I guess I grew up with this music, you know, and it always reminded me of home, and it always kind of hit home for me, you know. Then when I started going to elementary school, and you know, I'm not that old, but I'm kind of old, right? So bands like Offspring and like skate punk and Rancid and stuff were kind of big, and I started getting into that because all my friends were into that. But I always had like a soft spot for that stuff, you know. And I don't know, like as I got older, I just always was like, yeah, you know, I really like this new album, but I really like, you know, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath better, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's it. So I just always kind of like, you know, I listened to, you know, and then like obviously, you know, my parents were kind of, they're not old, but you know, like if you show them, you know, Possessed, they're going to be like, no, 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 that's too much, you know. But then I started kind of gravitating towards some heavier stuff, you know, some early death metal and the first couple of Death albums and first couple of Morbid Angel and stuff. And I was like, oh, you know, I really like this stuff too. And I just kind of kept broadening my palette for music. And but no matter what direction I went to, whether it would be more punk or more extreme metal or even into some jazz and blues and stuff, it always just kept coming back to like the 70's stuff, because I don't know, it was just such a free time. And then like we're mentioning before, before the show started, there was no, the genres were not established yet, right?
It was
In the
all a
musical scene.
blend.
It was all a blend, right? And the best example I always give is like you take the Fireball album from Deep Purple, you know, it starts with the song Fireball, which is like proto speed metal, and then it goes into like an epic long song, and then it goes into like Anyone's Daughter, which is like a country song, more or less, you know, and they just did whatever the hell they wanted to do. Whatever they liked, that's what they played, you know. And
Yep.
that's like kind of what we try to do with Starlight Ritual too. And I always kind of like that openness of the 70's hard rock, is in the sense of like, if you want to play fast, you play fast. You want to play slow. You want to do a ballad, do a ballad. You want to have piano in your song, put piano, you know, like they just did whatever the fuck they want, and nobody gave them shit, because those guys would probably knock you out if you gave them shit, right? So I like that like badass, like we just do what we want, and if you don't like it, don't listen to it, you know.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny when you were saying that you were your dad kept saying that you were conceived during music
Yeah.
and all that. And
Yeah.
I have something to say about that, because my parents kept telling me when I was young, because I have the same upbringing as you.
Yeah.
My parents were all about music. It was always playing in the house. We
Right.
were really, really big on Scorpions. Scorpions
Oh
was
yeah,
life.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember my mom used to say that my first concert, while she was pregnant, I saw Alice Cooper
Oh,
when she
nice.
was pregnant. So
That's so
Alice
cool.
Cooper was always a big part. And I
Nice.
remember seeing him at the Heavy Montreal a while back.
Mm.
And all I kept thinking about was like, this is the second time I get to hear you, you know, like
Yeah.
it was
That's
just
it. Yeah.
awesome. And like
Yeah.
I have that type of upbringing too. Like when I was 7 years old, my parents brought me to see Pink Floyd live.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
That's like a life-changing experience there. Yeah.
it was at the
Yeah.
Toronto Sky Dome, and it was fucking amazing, and I still
Yeah.
remember it to this day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to me, music, it was the same pattern. Like I remember when I was 13 or 14 coming home with like the Offspring Americana, I had
Absolutely.
just bought it, and my mom was like, "It says explicit lyrics on here."
Yeah. Yeah,
So
they
she,
said the F word once or twice in the album, so yeah.
yeah. So it was just funny because I grew up the same way, and then I went to death metal, and my parents was like, "This is fucked up. What are
Yeah,
you
it's like that's too
listening
much
to?"
for us. That's too much.
Yeah, this is too much. But
Yeah.
my parents came to see concerts when I sang in my death
Yeah.
metal bands, and they were
Sure.
always supportive. So that's like we have pretty much the same upbringing because I
Oh,
remember those exact memories. Like when I was a kid,
yeah.
just grabbing the albums, and I would play DJ at when my parents had
Oh yeah.
friends over.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd have like their friends or my uncles and my aunts and all that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then they were like, "Okay, Yolain, you're the DJ tonight.
You're the guy. Yeah.
Just
You're the
play
man. You're
good
the man.
music, switch it up." And he'd have like we had the turntable, the double cassette deck, and the
Right.
CDs
Of
were
course.
already out at that time, right?
Nice.
So
Nice.
so I would like always blend the songs into the cassette or the CD or the
That's
turntable. So it
work of
was
art. Yeah.
that was super fun times.
That's super cool. Yeah.
Nice.
That's really cool.
I,
Yeah.
you see, I'm a bit different from you guys. My parents weren't listening to any hard rock or metal at all. They
Mhm.
were only listening to French country
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
French Quebec popular stuff, I guess, like les classelles, ces affaires-là, you know. Yeah, for me, it started in, like in '95 with my cousin Mario, which is I don't know if he's there tonight. He's usually there, but anyways, yeah, he was
He's
the first
quiet.
one. Yeah, he's quiet. He was the first one of the gang to have a car, so we just pop in some
Oh yeah.
old, and he was into like into metal obviously, but he was
Mhm.
we were listening to like fuck was it like Hendrix, like
Oh yeah.
Zeppelin and
Nice.
this Steppenwolf and stuff like that,
Yeah.
in his car, and that's when. And but there was a kind of like around '95, there was kind of like a comeback of those bands, like when I was in high school, I remember everybody like having like Pink Floyd t-shirts and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's
That
true. That's a good point. Yeah, they used to sell
ACDC
them.
was
AC/DC.
getting
Yeah.
big again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Thunderstruck and stuff like that.
Thunderstruck. Yeah. That's
Um,
right.
yeah, and that's when I discovered like the Doors and the album The
Oh yeah.
Wall.
Of
I bought all of
course.
those in CDs,
Yeah.
which was all
Of
new
course.
for me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
hey, second beer
There you go.
finally.
Oh, I drank it this weekend. Great beer.
Hop
Hop Orange.
Orange from Vox Populi, my
Yep.
favorite brewery. I think
Mm.
always buying from those guys. Anyways, it's really
Nice.
good.
We should go there and ask them for a sponsorship.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, yeah. I approve this message. Um, on still on the same note of the 60s and 70s, I have a couple of questions about it because
Sure.
I'm obviously very interested about that era as well. What artists from that era that could be considered like a guilty pleasure for some, or yourself, that actually helped forge the singer that you are right now?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, definitely. One artist that I always cite as a big influence that people are kind of like, really? Would have never thought that. For me, is Krista Berg.
Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody knows Krista Berg from Lady in Red, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
so, and that's kind of like, that's not what I'm talking about, But people also know Spanish Train, right, from Krista Berg, and it's just a super epic song, and with the really powerful vocals, and that's always something that kind of grandiose, over the top kind of storytelling style that Dio did as well. It was obviously heavier when Dio did it, but there's one album from 1977, Krista Berg, called Crusader, and he has this like 8-minute song talking about like the Knights Templar and the Crusades and like the Middle Ages, and it's like so epic, and it's got like harpsichord and like it's almost like proto power metal in a sense, and there's even some electric guitar and stuff, and it was stuff like that showed me that you can write heavy music and not have to be metal and not have to use heavy distorted guitars. And like Pink Floyd's a great example. They write extremely heavy music, but there's no distortion. There's no heavy
Yep.
guitar. There's no down tuning. It's just a heavy atmosphere,
I remember
And
as a kid when like Pink Floyd or stuff like that would go on the radio or we'd listen to it.
Yeah.
I would just get chills from how
Mhm.
insane everything gets in a
Yeah,
song. Especially if you
absolutely.
listen to that really old Pink Floyd stuff where they
Yeah.
experiment a whole shit ton.
Absolutely.
Like every single song is like this epic journey of emotions and feelings. So it's intense how you can get heavy without being heavy at all.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I look for. Like that's the kind of stuff that I live for in music, you know. And Supertramp had a lot of moments like that too. You listen to like Crime of the Century or Fool's Overture. Fool's Overture is such a great example of just like that just haunting piano sound, you know, with like this just big wall of perfectly produced music. And he has like such a light, soft voice, but it creates such a deep, vast atmosphere, you know, that I love that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, Deep Purple were kings
yeah.
in that.
Oh, yeah.
Kings.
Yeah, sure.
With that extra like that Hammond B3 run into
Oh, yeah.
Marshall amps, like like every time. Like I always start every time it starts. I'm like, fucking crank it up. Like I don't care where we are. I'm at fucking Walmart. I'm like,
crank it up.
Let's go. You know what I mean?
You go
Like,
to the cashier and you're like, can you just crank up the song, please?
Yeah, just crank it up. Let's blow those speakers out. That's actually you're leading me exactly where my second question. Because you're talking about the heaviness and stuff like that. If you could name, and it's going to be a round table yelling, by the way, so get ready.
Okay.
From the 60s and 70s, in your opinion, like what's for you? Would be like the heaviest riff from that era?
Oh, wow.
That's hard.
I wish you would have told me to ask me this to go to preparation here on this one.
I can go first if you want. I can go first because I'm prepared.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead.
I'm not gonna just throw you under the bus like that.
Okay,
I've come prepared.
Right.
Okay, I've got a few, so you guys will have time to think. I'll start off with one. Mississippi Queen from Mountain.
Mountain, absolutely.
Starts with the fucking cowbell.
Hell yeah.
Imagine like tune in B, you know, with with the fucking guy from Typo Negative or something singing on top of that. Be so fucking heavy. Aqualung, Jethro Tull.
Absolutely.
Like, that rip, every time it starts, same thing. It's like fucking crank it up. I literally imagined that song like low tune, like just give me like
sure. Yeah.
Sunshine of Your Love from
Cream.
Cream. From Cream.
Yeah.
And I just that little offbeat too, because the song starts on the one instead of starts on the two instead of the one there. So
right.
It's like, oh, heavy riff, and then the drum comes. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, Ginger Baker. Yeah,
exactly. That was a fucking
all right.
trio, man.
I thought that kind of inspired me to think of a few things. Really heavy riffs ahead of their time. The first track of the first Uriah Heep album, very heavy, very humble. The first track is called, what's it called again? But it's got this, it was like almost one of the first times they used, because a lot of times, they used to use bar chords, right, in music from the 70s, but this was like just straight full power chords, bah, 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 bah. And it was just like, it was like maybe what Sabbath were playing at the time sounded heavier, because the first Uriah Heep was the same year as the first Black Sabbath. It was 1970, right on the nose, right? So that Sabbath might have sounded heavier, but the arrangement of the riff in that first Uriah Heep song off I feel like going to pick it up off the shelf there. Just to remember what it was. Yeah, you guys are on computers there, but maybe you can check the first song. It's called I can't remember what it was called. The first song.
I don't think I know that song. But I'll check it out.
God, awesome, man. It's super heavy. And that one. Another really heavy song is Ride in the Sky from Lucifer's Friend.
I don't know that band.
No, me neither.
Oh yeah, a lot of people say that that it's like a bit of a, because it came out I think the same year as Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song, and it's almost the exact same riff, even with the same it was like that, but they did it with trumpet instead. And it's kind of really weird because they came out like months apart, these songs. But yeah, Ride in the Sky from Lucifer's Friend, really heavy. What I don't really like to use the term proto metal because they were just playing rock and roll, you know.
Yep.
So, but I guess it could be classified as that, you know.
Is it the Gypsy, the song from?
Yes, that's it. It's called Gypsy.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Gypsy.
Yeah.
What else was really heavy?
I'd like to have a special mention in my notes of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Oh, Beatles, yeah.
From the Beatles.
Sure.
I'm not a huge Beatles fan, to be honest, but that song, first thing, that riff in the beginning on the floor tom, super heavy, You know,
Mhm.
even though it's the Beatles and it's heavy for that time.
Absolutely.
And second, I wonder why Weezer didn't cover that song before. It would be the perfect cover for
True.
Weezer.
True.
Like,
Yeah,
right? Like I just don't know why they didn't think about it. I should send them a message.
it's
You should
true.
cover
Send
that
them a
song.
message. You
They
cover that
did.
song.
It's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned Weezer too, because I'm not a fan of all their catalog, but that first Weezer album, the Blue Album,
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorite albums of all time. It's like a perfect '90s anti-rock rock album. You know,
Yep.
it's like a
Just like Oasis used to be in the
yeah,
beginning
kind
too.
of yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, it's like that anti-rock attitude. It's like we're just regular guys that wear like bowling shoes and button-up t-shirts that we play, but it was heavy, right? Like you listen to My Name Is Jonas, it's like a super heavy, crushing riff in the beginning, and it
Yeah.
was like anti-rock in the sense like we don't want to be rock stars, we don't want to like wear tons of jewelry and be on big stages, and I really like that approach, like that
Yeah.
thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only grunge band from the 90s that were playing guitar with a rat pedal, which is a pretty metal pedal start.
Yeah.
That's why they had like that dirty sound,
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so for me, hey, I've been trying to think about this, but just that bass line in CCR's Proud Mary,
Oh yeah, for
just
sure.
that heavy the
Yeah.
entirety of that
Yeah.
bass line is fucking sick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cream earlier, and it just makes me think of White Room. That
Oh yeah,
fucking
Good song.
song
It's a good
is
song.
Very heavy.
super heavy.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna go with Holiday from Scorpions. Is a super soft song, and once it kicks, and we're talking end of 70's here, right? So
Yeah,
it's
right.
like 79.
It's fine.
Right.
It's fine. It's okay.
So I'm still in the zone, I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah. You're good. You're good.
But I mean, once that entire song, even though it's a smooth ballad, it's really heavy for what it is. So I
Sure,
really
sure.
enjoy that song. I enjoy like freaking everything that Scorpions ever did. So I'm
Mhm.
very biased about
Oh,
that.
well, it's a great song. I love all the eras of Scorpions. I prefer the '70s Scorpions, but I love the big '80s arena anthem Scorpions as well. But I mean, if we're going to extend that period till the late '70s, well, I could probably name you like 50 songs there, that have a great riff. But
Oh, yeah.
another song I wanted to mention in my top three, I guess you could say, would be the song "Inside Looking Out" from Grand Funk.
Grand Funk.
This is from 1969, and Grand Funk was just three guys, and they made a lot of noise. And it's way ahead of their time. That song specifically, "Inside Looking Out," is from the first Grand Funk album. They call it the Red Album because it just says Grand Funk and it's all red. What a riff, and just aggressive vocal style, and just like heavy power chords, and like just pounding on the toms and the floor tom, and it was like, wow, this sound wouldn't even come out for another 10 years.
Yeah.
So
You know
that was
what?
really cool.
I have a song that just clicked also.
Okay.
Something that's really heavy. Jefferson Airplane,
Airplane.
Somebody to Love.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is a really
Yeah.
heavy song.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Just that entire riff, the way he rips through the song is, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
the aggressiveness in her vocals and that entire like vibe that she does, shit,
Yeah.
that's a great song.
uh,
Now I feel
Rene-
like listening to music.
yeah,
Fuck this
well,
podcast, let's go.
there's I'd like to mention two Renegades from Styx.
Oh yeah.
So it's like just with the vocals, and
absolutely.
then like he's like, you can tell he's like in the back of the booth, like
Yeah.
it's like, damn. First off, when I listened to that song the first time, I was like, fucking vocals, it's boring. It's gonna be like a Queen like ish song,
Mhm.
And then this starts, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa,
Yeah.
now we're talking.
Well,
Anyways.
I mean, we can thank the internet for a lot of this stuff, right? Because everything is there, right, to check out musically. And
Yep.
another thing that's really cool about the internet, like being a big Deep Purple fan, I'm a big fan of Glenn Hughes, the bass player. He played in Deep Purple, he played in Black Sabbath also, and thanks to the internet, I found out that before all that, he played in a band called Trapeze in the early '70s, and they have this one song called Jury, and this is like doom metal way before doom metal was even a thought. Like this like is like predates like even the sperm of doom metal. You know, like it's like night and day, man. It's like way before. It's like like 1970 again, right on the nose, you know. And everybody thinks like you talk about 1970. It's like, oh yeah, like Purple and Sabbath and Zeppelin and obviously these are all great, but I want to know like more bands from those times that didn't make it, you know, like just to see what they were doing, you know. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming out these days that, you know, people are ripping from 7 inches and vinyls and stuff that no one's ever heard before, you know. They're
Yep.
putting it on YouTube and it's all there, you know. So
It needs to be out. Everyone needs to
be
hear
out.
that
That's
stuff.
right. That's right.
Your cousin Simon just mentioned online a heavy song for him is "Clown on a Rope" by Blueberry Pancake, 1970. And I do not know that.
Never
band.
heard of that. No,
Okay.
no.
So-
never heard of that.
I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Lou, my cousin Mario, he flips vinyl, so he buys lots and he resells and he keeps. He comes up with the weirdest, obscure stuff, man. Well, sometimes we'll do a vinyl night, and we're gonna do an entire night of fucking obscure disco, you know, or like,
Sure,
or it's like,
sure.
oh, look at this band, and then it pops in. I'm like, oh, that's fucking good. What's the name of that band? And we never heard of that band. So he actually like he grabs all the vinyls, you know. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that he knows, but when he
Yeah.
doesn't know it, he's like, he goes on YouTube, like you said, thanks to the internet, you know.
Yeah.
And he listens to it, it's like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So he keeps it and stuff like that. And then whatever he doesn't like, he flips back. So he ends up having a super big vinyl collection that costs him barely nothing, you know.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
that's probably where he got that song from a random
So-
vinyl.
let's go back to Starlight Ritual and your newest album. So let's talk about the album's concept. Let's talk about cover art. And
Mhm.
let's also talk about the photo shoots. Let's touch
Oh,
on
of
that
course.
stuff.
Of
Let's
course.
touch on all the promo going on. So let's start with the cover art. What's going on here? What's the concept behind the
Sure.
album?
Sure. All right. Well, you know, being a fan of all the bands we mentioned, you know, there's always been kind of a existence between fantasy art and heavy rock and heavy metal album, you know. And obviously, there's the obvious like Manowar parallels, but even bands like Molly Hatchet were using that kind of artwork, you know. And
Yep.
even the Beach Boys for their Surf's Up album, they have like this super epic, like dark rider on like a dark horse in like the moonlight kind of thing, you know. And it's like with rock music and fantasy art, it's always kind of been hand in hand, you know. And we would have been honored to have like a Ken Kelly or Frank Frazetta piece, you know, for our album, but we just can't afford it, right? But luckily, we don't need those guys because a good friend of mine, Chris Underheimer, he's an artist and he's done albums for lots of metal bands, black metal bands, and death metal bands, and he just had some. He's a big fan of that style of art, and this specific album cover that you see was actually a painting, an oil painting that he did that was done in the Frank Frazetta fantasy art style. And I just when I saw it, I loved it. It was like, yep, that's to me, that's exactly what we do. It's just like one lone warrior versus the whole world. Like I'm just gonna do it my way, and you know, you like either get behind me or get out of my way, kind of thing, you know. And
does the album have an entire vibe through it, like a lyrical theme or a theme towards what we see on the cover art?
Definitely Riddle of Steel kind of reflects the more cover art, but the kind of the way I write my lyrics is that, you know, that archetype of like the outlaw warrior, he's lived in every era. You know, he was a pirate, he was a cowboy, he was a barbarian, he could be a soldier in modern day's time, he could be a guy that builds bridges in our modern day time. It's not like the era is not important. It's like, you know, people forget that to be a rebel doesn't necessarily mean you're like a bad guy. You know, you're just somebody who rebels against the norm, like what is considered normal that day, like what you're supposed to do, what you're, you know. And
being a metalhead in general is pretty much being against the norm.
For sure. You know, and I'm not saying you got to be like a bum, you know, like to me, there's a big difference because like if you look at like rebels in the traditional sense, they rebelled because they stood for something, you know, and they weren't getting what they wanted. so they rebelled against it. Not having a job and just smoking weed and drinking beer all day doesn't make you a rebel. It makes you a bozo. Like you're not rebelling against anything. You're not rebel. You have nothing to rebel against. You're just doing nothing.
Yep.
So I always like that rebellious spirit of just that kind of like, like Judas Priest had. It like just take no shit, and just do what you got to do to get ahead. And I've always loved that approach. So there's definitely a theme in our lyrics and our music of just kind of, we don't write about negative stuff. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about modern stuff. We just sing about like just taking care of business, man. Like just be the man. Like rise to the challenges and conquer stuff and just be the best version of you can be without being like it sounding like an infomercial.
Yeah. And then let's flip it around. Let's go to the promo shoot and how you guys promoted this album. That amazing shot is just grandiose. Let's talk about how you did this, the concept behind it, what's going on.
Yeah. Well, that concept, I mean, I don't wear that cowboy hat every day, obviously. But
You should.
I should incorporate it into my everyday wardrobe for sure. But I've always, like I said, I'm a big fan of like Western movies and outlaw country music and stuff like that. And I always thought that these guys had the most badass look, and in regular life we wear leather jackets and jeans and black t-shirts like everyone else does. But when I was a little kid and I saw that album cover of Motorhead, Ace of Spades, and it's just them three standing on like that mountainous, that like sand dune, I was like, man, these guys are real outlaws, and it's not necessarily that they're bad guys or anything like that. They just live outside of the law. They do what they want, they take what they want and they do what they want, and ever since I was a little kid, that image kind of always like resonated with me, and I've always associated badass guys with like outlaw, like a kind of a Western Wild West kind of outlaw-esque vision. So, all the other pictures and stuff we took, we're not like fashion models, right? So we just kind of wore like our jeans and t-shirts and plaid jackets and stuff. But like for this one, I was like, you know what? Like I always remember watching an interview with Yngwie Malmsteen. And it was an interview he had during like the grunge period when Nirvana was really big. And Yngwie Malmsteen's all about the show. He's got like all his jewelry while he's playing his guitar and big hair and all that. And that's not really what we want to do. But he did say something that I find really resonated with me. And he said, you're a working guy. You work every day. You make money. You pay a ticket to go see a show. You don't want the guys on stage to look like the guy that just pumped your gas in your car on the way to the show. Like you want a show. Like you want to see guys on stage that look bigger than life, larger than life. Like
you want everything,
the whole experience. Exactly. So and that was like a jab on like the Kurt Cobain like grunge look of just like the jeans and the red checkered loose t-shirts and sweaters and all that. It's like I don't want guys that look like bums on stage. I want guys that look cool on stage. So we kind of adopted that same principle too of like just be an outlaw, live outside. It's not necessarily be a lawbreaker. It's a big difference between being a criminal lawbreaker and being an outlaw. An outlaw is just a guy that lives by his own code and does what he wants. As long as he's not hurting anybody else, what's the problem?
Yep.
So
are you going to be using those outfits live? That's what I want to know.
Of course, man. I got the jacket. I got the hat.
I want to see. I want to see this full live experience going on. I want to see this at 30 degrees outside on the stage.
100%. We got it, man. We got it. That's the thing. We'll sacrifice that for you guys.
Sounds good. So up next, obviously, I'm a singer and I've always sang death metal and all that stuff. I like to write lyrics and all that. And I appreciate someone who likes to go deeper into his lyrics. Like you were telling me, you're a lyric nerd, you go full on and you do you do your research and all that. Let's talk about, do you have like a song to you that's really important on the album, something that you find more intimate or that reflects something from your life and that's important to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I like these in-depth questions. It's cool. It definitely breaks the mold from the usual, like, like ho hum questions that I usually hear. So that's really interesting.
We're not the typical podcast.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. You guys are doing a fine job. Fine job. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I write when I write lyrics, it's kind of like my own life experiences and the things that I've done and the things that I see, the observations I have, and so every song I write is kind of intimate. One that I really enjoy a lot is "Burning Desire," and the concept of burning desire is kind of how can I put this? It's like having a passion inside of you that has to come out, and you try to explain it to others but they don't get it. It's like you're crazy, you're irrational, like it's like a futile pursuit, to you have to go to do this or to try to pursue this dream that you have, but you just got to do it because that's you. Even if it's illogical and it seems fruitless and you're going to get nothing for doing it, you just have to do it. And that's what the burning desire is all about. And you just kind of live your life in consequence to that. And I'm not saying throw it all to the wind and just leave it up to chance. Like, you still got to do what you got to do, but you'll always have this like passion inside you for music or heavy music or whatever, that it's just got to come out. And people around you might not get it, they might not understand it, but whatever, welcome. You do what you got to do.
That's a great answer to that question. I've asked this a few times before, and I really like to get to know how people interpret their own songs and how they vibe with their own music. And that's a great way to see one of your songs. I like it. And you know what? Let's go with a lighter question.
Sure.
So you're into all that 60s, 70s stuff, and you like all the vibes, but nowadays, what bands jive with that style that you're into? What bands would you recommend people to listen to that
good question.
that bring you back to that same style that you like so much?
Sure. Well, another great band from our fellow countrymen would be the guys in Freeways. Freeways is a really good band, and and they were on the Trapped Under Ice compilation as well. And when you're listening to the CD or the vinyl, their song is right after ours, and it's on the Trapped Under Ice, our song Demons is like quite heavy. It's one of the heaviest songs we've done, and Freeways takes like the complete opposite approach. Like, they're like Thin Lizzy, smooth, heavy rock, but it's just rocking and full of soul and full of good vibes,
Yep.
And definitely Freeways is one of my favorite bands from these days, and they're Canadian, and they're from Toronto, I believe. So it's like they're not too far, and Freeways is my big one. I like Spell, I like a lot as well, Cadaver is a really cool band too,
Yep.
The thing with when you do to me, you should never really say that we do old school rock, like we do old school heavy. It's like we just play rock and we just play heavy metal. If you see it as like vintage or traditional or old school, that's fine. Those are our influences. But what I don't like is when bands try to sound like they were actually from that era. Like, you have these guys making albums and they were born in like 96 and the album sounds like it came out in like 82, like everything's soaked in reverb and like sounds like it's recorded down the hall. I'm like, I get it, this is the stuff you like, but it's like, I don't know, like it becomes too much of like a product, rather than an actual musical journey. It's like we're checking off all the boxes, like, we got like the big hair, we got the reverb sound, we got, it's like, okay, but why don't you just write music? Like, stop trying to fit in all those boxes. So that's the approach that we took. Like you definitely hear like the Rainbow, the Judas Priest influence, but like we didn't want to sound like our album was recorded in 1981. Like,
you want it to sound like today, but
relevant.
Still with that old sound blended with what we can do today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So obviously, you said earlier, like you shifted in style. Like, obviously, you went from that doom proggy style, and then you blended it into the hard rock.
Right.
Are you guys? you said your songs had been written for a long time.
Mhm.
Are you guys in the writing process at the moment? Is there some newer stuff, and is there still a shift in style, or have you found your style?
No, I would definitely say after, because like I said, the stuff you hear on the first demo, all those songs have been written were written before I got there. So that was kind of like the first wave, and now this wave that we're in now is the one we're gonna ride basically till the end.
Yeah.
In the sense that now that we're all five of us are together, this is what we wanted to do. Even like I said before, when we were playing Civilization Lost in 2014, we're like, yeah, this is the kind of more stuff we have more fun doing this kind of stuff. So
Okay.
this is definitely what you hear on Starlight, on Sealed and Starlight, is what you can definitely expect for the future. And even despite just putting this one out, we're actually working on another little EP that's going to come out really not too soon there, just to be ballsy and like, yeah, we're just going to keep the train going.
Nice.
So yeah, we're working on that there. It's definitely going to be in the same vibe, maybe a little heavier, you know, might
Hit
be a
us
little
up.
faster.
We'll add that to the reviews.
Oh, great, man. Yeah. Well, right now it's all a lot of it is we have one track that we're working on, and we have it's going to be a good and a good rocker, like a good fast rocker, and a good mid tempo rocker. So it's gonna be the best of both worlds of what we do. So
I want I,
we're working on that. Yeah.
I want another ballad. I love the ballad.
I want one too. I want one too, and it's they're long to write though, because it's
Yeah.
like ballads. It's like it's a really fine line between like epic and cheesy.
Yep.
Like it's hard
But
to.
you could like you have to flirt with it. It has
Yeah,
to be
you do.
cheesy. It has
Yeah,
to be cheesy, but not
yeah,
too much.
but not over the top, and you don't want to be super cliche. You want it to stand out. And like just to give you an example, this is a cool like Starlight Ritual trivia thing. Um, Sealed and Starlight, the song.
Yep.
2 days before we went in the studio, it was not called Sealed and Starlight, and the lyrics were quite different. I had rewritten, the verses were the same, but I had rewritten the entire choruses, because I always thought that when you had an album, like this is just me personally, if you have an album and it has a title, it's always nice when you have a song that shares the same title as the album. You know?
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that too. And it's kind of like the pinnacle of the album in a sense. So we originally were going to call the album Burning Desire, but it could have worked. It would have been fine. But Cauldron had an album called Burning Fortune a few years ago, probably more like 10, 12 years ago now. So I was like, yeah, it's a little too similar. I didn't want to kind of have the same first word and the same album title. So I just had the idea Sealed in Starlight in my head. So with that, I rewrote the choruses. The verses stayed the same, because up till 2 days before we recorded it, that song was actually called Power of Your Eyes. If you want to talk cheesy, that's fucking cheesy, man.
It does sound very cheesy.
Yeah, yeah. It was called Power of Your Eyes, and I was just running with it. And I was like, I was kind of thinking like Judas Priest, Prisoner of Your Eyes, and I was like, it's too similar. And then I was like, just the concept of Sealed and Starlight. And then especially when I saw the album cover with that guy under the stars with the swords, I was like, yeah, Sealed and Starlight. Like, this is our triumph. This is our everything we've worked for, is like, this is the culmination of it. So 2 days before we went in to record it, I rewrote some lyrics and changed the song title. And now it's what you hear on the album that's what it is now.
That's just fucking great. I
Yeah,
love it. That's
yeah,
some
yeah,
great trivia right there.
yeah.
So just before we enter the next and last segment, I'm going to open
Sure.
my third beer, which is Toupie, the brasserie Tadoussac. Anyway, so it's a 6.5 IPA. I'm slipping into my tongue.
There's not really a good translated English way to say Tadoussac.
Tadoussac.
It's the most Quebec French name in Quebec, I think.
Probably.
So obviously life is starting back up. COVID is going away a little bit. We're starting to forget, but not forgetting completely. Does Starlight Ritual have any plans coming up, live shows in the talks, stuff brewing on your side other than the EP you just mentioned?
Yeah, that's we want to keep writing. you know, and we told ourselves we do want to play shows, but like we're a rock and roll band. I don't want to play shows with like social distancing and everyone's got to wear masks and stuff. If we play shows, we want to play festivals. We want to play big shows. We want to have like big crowds of people to appreciate our music and just, you know, because we just give her, you know, like we get on stage and it's like blood, sweat, and tears, man. Like we just give it all, you know, and we want people to feel that, you know, and we don't want to, I don't know, we definitely want to work on the EP. Right now we're in the process, you know, the album's out. We're getting some shirts made up, patches, flags. These are like a prototype flag that I got here, you know. So we're working on some merch and stuff because people like merch. I like merch. I like to
I
wear
like
bands.
merch. A lot of merch.
I like to wear shirts of bands that I like and I listen to, you know. So we had printed some shirts years and years ago for the first album, but like I don't know, I didn't really like the quality. I didn't really like the print and all that. So we're definitely working on. They're actually going to be out pretty soon. Some nice high quality, you know, nice colors and stuff. So that's
that flag back there as like a hoodie with that on the back.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
with just just in the front in white, that Starlight Ritual with the
triangle
and then
logo. Yeah, that's you pretty much nailed it right there. That's definitely what's coming up there. That's definitely what's coming up. You know, we're gonna have some shirts because I've always been a fan of you know, like I like the cover art is great, but I find when it comes to t-shirts, I like more simple stuff. So one of the first shirts we're making is just
simple in the front.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, for the hoodie, that's literally exactly what we'll be doing for the hoodies. Exactly that. But for the shirts, we're gonna rock like just the triangle, with Starlight Ritual, like as big as it can be, and that's it. You know, like just keep it simple, you know, and keep it. You know, we figure a lot of guys have leather jackets on anyway, so the back's not that important, you know. So
I'm a big fan of like a hoodie always needs to have something huge on the back, and a shirt something like big in the front, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Obviously you said you started off this was your first vocal project, but obviously if I go digging into what you've been doing, you actually did another vocal project at some point. Let's talk about it just a little bit. Is it something that was just a one-off project? What's up with that?
Oh,
and you can mention the project also.
Yes, but you're talking about Spiral Wheel. That was I believe in 2018. That was that's a hell of a story too. You know, some days like you just wake up and you get like an email and you're like, is this for real? You know? And so one day in 2000, probably, I don't know, late 2017, I get an email from a gentleman named Satoshi Ishida, a Japanese man. And, you know, like Japanese guys, they're really straight to the point. You know, they're really like, no bullshit, no pleasantries, no bullshit. So he's just like kind of writes like, hello, I am a Japanese man. I have a heavy metal band. I want you to sing for me. I was like, all right, do I have a choice? Like, do I have an option? You know, like, can I say no? Can I say yes? Like what am I, you know, what are we working with here? So I said, oh, first of all, like, who are you? Like, you know, and so he says, I'm a guitar player. I was in, and it turns out the guy was in like Sabat, the old school, like Japanese black metal band. He was in Metal Lucifer. He was in a bunch of other cool projects, you know, and he's like, I have this heavy metal band that we have songs ready, but we have no singer, no vocalist, no lyrics. We're looking for somebody. And Rick Sharon, who was the drummer of Exciter for a long amount of time, he was involved in the project too. He was doing the drums. Satoshi was doing the guitar, and another gentleman was on the bass. And so he just sent me a couple songs and said, like, you know, write some lyrics, write some melodies, record it, send it back to me, and we'll take it from there. And he liked what I did. So then he sent me the full album, and he says, you have like, take the time you need, write lyrics, you know, we'll pay for your recording or your studio stuff and all that, and send it to me, and we're gonna make a really good heavy metal album. So I was like, shit, sure, why not? You know,
nice.
And plus, you know, these guys are all like guys in like their 40s and 50s even, you know, so these guys have been making music for 30 years, you know, in various bands. So like it was so professional, you know, like I would get the song and there would be like timestamps, like verse A is between like 31 seconds and 52 seconds, you know, and I was like, oh shit, you just took all the guessing out for me, you know. It was everything was so well organized and so straightforward that you know, it took me about I don't know, 6 months or 7 months or something to write all the lyrics and get it all done. And you know, it flew a little under the radar in terms of like people listening to it and noticing it. You know, it was just, you know, we didn't really promote it that much, and it kind of in hindsight, I would have done a few things differently in terms of promotion and all that, but it's still there and it's on YouTube, and you know, people are still buying it here and there, so you know, that's cool. Uh, we're working on another album. It's a little slow, but it's coming. So there's going to be another album with those guys, Spiral Wheel, and
Nice.
yeah, it's going to be cool. I like that. That's more like straightforward 80s style heavy metal, you know, which is always fun to do. So yeah, definitely working with that, you know.
Nice. Obviously you also collect a shit ton of stuff. I can look behind and just see.
I
Is
do a
there
lot
an
of-
album you've gotten rid of and regret?
Not necessarily gotten rid of, but there's albums that I lent people and then just never saw that person again. And it's like,
Can you name a few of those?
I had,
The people that never got it back.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
this
if you're
guy,
watching,
this
if
guy.
you're
You
watching,
better bring them back.
yeah, I want that back, you know. Off the top of my head, I did have like an original first pressing of Misfits Earth AD CD that I lent to like a cousin, and then he just like moved away and didn't tell me, and I never got it back. You know, that was like 20 years ago. So definitely would like to get another copy of Earth AD from the Misfits. That would be great.
Yeah.
What else did I have too? I had another thing that was weird is like another one of my cousins, he lent me the second Danzig album on CD, like Lucifuge, Danzig 2. And I
Mhm.
love that album. And he gave it to me in uh like a like a burnable CD case. Like, so I didn't have the jacket or the insert or anything. It was just like the CD in like a blank plastic case. So when I gave it back to him, because he was like, "Oh, I have the album, the jacket at home. I just don't know where it is. So just borrow it like this, make a copy of it, and you know, give it back to me." And when I gave it back to him, I don't know, he was older than me, and I guess I wanted to look cool, so I put it in like the actual case of my Metallica Ride the Lightning CD case, and I gave it back to him, thinking that I would eventually get that case back. And I
Oh,
never did. So like I lost that. I still have the Metallica CD because he was like way older than me, and I wanted him to think I was cool, right? So I like took out my Metallica CD and put his CD back in there and give him like, oh yeah, I don't even care about this case, man. Just give it back to me like sometime. And I really, I'm like in my head, I'm like, shit, I hope he gives it back to me, you know. So stuff like that, you know. Other than that, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that I've lost over the years. But I've definitely lost a good handful of CDs
yeah.
drunk at a party, people over, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man, you gotta listen to this. And I lent it to them, and I forgot what I lent them and who it was. You know, it happened. It's definitely happened. You know.
I
Yeah.
know that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I can follow up to that, is there one in your collection that you're really proud of that's kind of rare or that's kind of
Oh
special?
yeah, definitely, definitely. Uh, yeah, let me grab one real quick. Hold on. One in
Yeah, sure,
particular.
Go
sure,
for it.
sure, sure.
I'm gonna
Sure.
drink beer in the meanwhile.
Yeah. Yeah, Yella, do you have one in your collection that you're proud of?
Well,
That's special to
I
you?
special to me, yes, a bunch. Mostly my Quebec scene.
Well, this
My
is this
go for it.
this is one that's quite rare. This is Winter's Bane, Heart of a Killer. This is the first album that Tim Owens from Judas Priest sang in, and this is like
Okay.
totally obscure, unknown heavy metal. And this is like the original like Japanese pressing too of it.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's like
Nice.
hard to see. There's a bunch of Japanese on it there, and it's like it comes with. Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, haven't opened it in a while, but it comes with like a Japanese. Yeah, it's all like it's cool because all like Japanese writing inside the album too, you know. And
Oh, that's
Nice.
nice.
yeah, like you go on eBay and it's like $100 the CD, you know, like if not more. So this is kind of one that I got super cheap back in the day because I'm a big Tim Owens fan, and even though the albums he did with Judas Priest are like not necessarily the best, but just his voice, you know, and the live when he did the live Judas Priest albums and he was singing all the classic Rob Halford stuff, he was just so good, you know. And he's
You do know he's coming out with like KK's Priest. He's going to be the singer for it.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out for sure. Yeah. So so yeah, this is the first thing he ever did. and this was from like 1991 or 1992 or something like that. So it's just a pretty rare, hard to find version, original pressing of the album. So that's one of the ones I'm kind of happy I have that one.
Nice. I have Smo was asking me what I have in my collection. For me, it's like obscure Quebec metal stuff, because I've been supporting Quebec for so long. Like every band that comes out, I just want to listen to it all and support everybody. But I mean, Descend into Nothingness from Rouyn-Noranda, I have all of their stuff and I support them so much. I love their stuff back in the day. Neuraxis, all their old stuff. I really, really love having those albums. But there's a buddy of mine, because I talk to so many people, and on Horror FM, there's this one guy. His name is Alex Allard, and he's a metalhead and a horror fan. And for my birthday, he asked one of my other buddies what my address was, and he shipped me an album, a thrash metal album from Ontario that's called Entropy. And the album is so fucking rare that when I checked online, it was worth $400.
Wow, that's crazy.
And he just sent it to me because he told me, he's like, enjoy it more than I can.
Wow, that's really cool.
Wow.
That's really cool, man.
And he sent that to me last year. And I was like,
Wow, that's
holy
awesome.
shit, I don't even know this guy. Like I know him from online.
Right,
And he sent me this awesome fucking album. It's great old school thrash from Canada, right? And it's good stuff, and in the veins of like Annihilator's old stuff and shit like
Nice.
that, you know.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
So
stuff.
really, really good stuff. Awesome to have that in my collection.
Nice.
Really cool.
And for you, Simon?
Actually, I'm prepared.
I know you're prepared.
Yeah. Well, a little bit. Not really. I don't have a huge collection. But it's just stuff that's like meant like something to me, because I this guy here, that's not even metal, but I don't even know if it's rare or not.
Oh, Elvis
but
Costello. Yeah.
I
Very cool.
I think it's pretty rare, that album. I picked it up at
Probably.
a garage sale in the 90s for nothing, because
Nice.
they didn't know. This one, because it's just funny. I didn't even just listen to it yet. Cheech and Chong. I don't know if it's rare. It's just cool. And
It's just
that
cool.
one, I think it might be rare-ish. It's pretty interesting. Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa.
Oh yeah, Gene Krupa.
Drum
Yeah, that's
battle.
really cool. Yeah, those guys are like the godfathers of like modern drumming, basically, right? So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I also have a promo copy of what's her name, Nuclear Assault Survive on vinyl, which is not rare, but it says on it not for resale, so it's like a promo vinyl.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I have a couple cool picture discs and some promo stuff too. That it's all somewhere in the box right now there, but
Yeah.
I'll pull it out.
All right. So other than that, I think you had one last question, Simon, and you can go
Yes.
ahead with that.
Yes, I always like to finish with a fun one.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get it. Where is it? Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. So, Damien.
Yeah.
You have. It's gonna be a round table, so you didn't get ready.
And he's gonna hurt you again. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be fun.
No, it's not gonna be that hard. Okay. You are given the power of building your own supergroup.
Oh.
Okay. So and you're also, because it's magical. So you have a magic wand. You're able to resurrect
I see.
if you want. Okay. First off, something I forgot to ask you before. I've read that you did like a sound engineer course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is that your day job, or is just something you do on the side?
No. I'm a mechanic, man.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I went to Trebas. I went to Trebas Music Institute years and years ago, and I got my diploma in audio engineering and live sound. So when it's nothing I do in terms of employment, but when I record music, Starlight stuff, and whatever, I do use some of that knowledge there. But
yeah, I was just wondering, because that's what I that's what I do for a living as well.
Cool.
Yeah, because my question was going to reflect that, but actually, what is the lineup? And also, I'm going to push the envelope. You don't necessarily need to answer it, but where would you want to record it? Want to record that album?
All right. Okay.
If you want, you don't have to. That's like the extra like street cred
Bonus
Yeah.
points.
bonus points. You know?
Definitely. Do I have to sing in this band, or can I pick a singer as well?
It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you.
I mean, it would be awesome if I sang in it, just so I could meet all these guys,
You could do you could do
You
a
could
plan.
do a duet.
Yeah,
Okay.
or you could have one super group where you sing and one super
Okay.
group where you don't sing. It's up to you.
Yeah, all right. If I had to pick a super group, on drums, it would have to be Cozy Powell. Definitely Cozy Powell on drums. Bass would probably be Glenn Hughes, just because he's like super. I just love the guy. He's awesome. Guitar, well, I mean, Tony Iommi would be pretty hard to beat,
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, I'm basically kind of almost just naming like the Tony Martin era Black Sabbath, it's kind of basically what it is there. But yeah, I would have loved obviously Dio on vocals. If I could have ever done anything with Dio, that would have been something else, or even Ian Gillan or Rob Halford, like any of those guys would have been phenomenal, For guitar players, man, there's so many good
Yeah,
ones.
I know.
It's like, man, from Blackmore to Michael Schenker to who knows, man. There's just so many amazing guitar players. Paul Gilbert. Yeah, there's just so many guys that excuse me, that are just awesome. Guitar player would be hard, but drums, definitely Cozy Powell. Bass, definitely Glenn Hughes. Vocals, Dio, and maybe myself in one song. That's about it.
Just for the fuck of it, because you decide.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Because you just want to be there.
I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
be there and meet these guys and hang out with them and have
Yeah.
a beer with them. Like that would just be like a life goal right there. Impossible, unlivable life goal.
Yeah.
So Yella, you want to go, or you want me to go while you think about it?
I can go, but okay. So
Don't say cruel fate. That's not cool
No.
if you say that.
we're gonna be because there's different vibes to what I could say, because obviously I'm a big death metal fan, but I'm a big rock fan also, right?
Mhm.
So we're gonna keep in the same vibe we're at right now. So I'm gonna go full rock and heavy metal. So I do my rock heavy metal lineup. Even though he's not into that hard rock heavy metal vibe, well, he is, because he was with Ozzy. So let's say Zach Wilde on guitar with all those fucking licks. Man, I love all those pinch harmonics all the time and just making his guitar squeal. That to me would make, even if he did like 60s music and just adding those little pinches, oh, that'd be sick. So I think Zach Wilde on guitar would be a great choice. On vocals, I'm sorry, John Fogerty. He has to be there. He has to do it and play guitar at the same time, obviously.
That's awesome.
The rest is a little hard for me. That's where I man, I'm a little, I don't know. John Bonham on drums, probably.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And
Nothing
then
wrong with that.
on bass, that's probably my hardest one. Let me sleep on it 2 minutes while you say your line.
Yeah. I got mine pretty ready.
Yeah, I know you prepared yours.
Yeah, I prepared. Well, obviously, they're my questions, so why would I not look good with my own questions? Well, in the past I've looked dumb on my own questions, but anyway, that's another story. Actually, I decided that I'm not going to play in that band because it
I'm
would
not
just
gonna
sound,
play in the band either. I'm just gonna.
yeah, exactly. So it would be on drums. I'm resurrecting Vinnie Paul. On guitar, resurrecting his brother, Dimebag.
Very cool.
On bass, Cliff Burton.
Mm.
On vocals,
So you're resurrecting 3 people right now.
yeah, I'm resurrecting all of them.
Oh, okay.
Well, fuck, faut que j'en aie mon argent, tabarnak. Je ressuscite du monde, let's go. Là. And on vocals, Dio.
So
Finally.
full on resurrection.
Hell of a
Full on.
lineup. Yeah. Hell of a lineup.
So, you know what? For the lineup that I've created, Geezer Butler would be the best bet on bass.
Very good choice. Yeah,
So-
very good choice.
Just with that entire vibe that I'm creating right here. And I'd love to see John Fogerty trying to do some like heavier stuff with these guys.
Mhm.
It'd be
You know,
awesome.
it'd
Sure.
make for a pretty fucked up lineup, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, you never
And-
know.
It would work,
Could
though.
be
It would
interesting.
work.
And I don't know. maybe have like guest vocals on there. And holy shit, I have a blank on his name right now. The singer from Journey.
Steve Perry.
Steve Perry. Have
Yeah.
Steve Perry do a grandiose ballad on this album. Just one song.
There you go.
Big Journey and Foreigner fan here. So
Oh yeah, Foreigner especially. Yeah.
Foreigner is
Lou
sick.
Graham. Lou
Sick.
Graham is one of the best rock voices of all time. So
Man, Foreigner. Anyways, so that'll be it for the podcast tonight. Had a ton of fun with you, Damien.
same here,
Obviously, I have a bunch of stuff to say, but before, what is the last thing you have to say to everyone listening? A shout out, a special little something you want to mention? Go for it.
Oh, definitely. If you like us, you have to thank Anik Giroux from Temple of Mystery Records. She was basically the catalyst for this whole band coming together in the first place. And without her, man, like I would have never met these guys, and none of this stuff would have ever existed. And she, since day one, she's always supported us and loved our music, and put us in touch with all kinds of people. And we were super happy to sign with Temple of Mystery for this album, and we're definitely going to be sticking with them. So definitely big shout out to Anik, and of course to all the band members, JF, Matt, Dan, Louis. It's a well-oiled machine, and it won't work with all the parts, with some parts missing, right? So these are the guys that make the shit happen, and so that's about it,
Perfect.
And Anik and to Dio, just because thanks to Dio and everything you do in life. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And thanks to you guys for having me. And I had a great time and really good questions. Had a blast. And anytime, man. Call me back anytime.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Obviously, I'm going to mention this next part in French just to finish off our podcast. Donc, guys, merci beaucoup d'être venus. Mercredi prochain, les reviews Metal Minded ont fait Pestilence, Ketik 6, Hyras et Cerebral Rot. Donc, Chris de grosse semaine de death metal, c'est bourré d'un bord à l'autre. Dimanche prochain, on reçoit les boys de Nervous Impulse. Donc, un autre band du Québec qui sort du stock intéressant. Allez checker ça. Soyez parmi nous dimanche soir. So, obviously, everyone, Sunday night, enjoy your night, have fun. Do not leave right now, Damien. We're going to probably talk, have a beer, chill. Sure. And thanks to everyone here. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Also like and subscribe everything that Starlight Ritual does, because it's going to be fucking sick what's coming up. Cheers to everyone and have a great evening.
Ce podcast métal vous a été présenté par la cordonnerie chez Jerry, Military Music Rap, la boutique Brouhaha, la chaîne YouTube Horreur FM et la brasserie artisanale à la dérive. À la prochaine!